From inside Washington Community High School, Clutch Sports Media is proud to present Mid-Illini Conference Girls Basketball as the Dunlap Eagles travel to take on the 5-2 Washington Panthers. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Washington. Alongside Joey Wright, I am Larry Larson and the entire Clutch Sports Media crew in with you tonight. And Joey, this is sure to be a good matchup between two teams at the top of the Mid-Illini Conference, Dunlap in first, Washington in third. The Eagles come in ranked 9th in the IHSA 3A poll. A lot of talent on both sides, and it's sure to be a good battle because it was last time.
It certainly was last time. Dunlap was a winner in that one. That was actually Dunlap's last game, a 52-44 win over Washington over at their place. But Larry, I'm so excited to see specifically the matchup between Sophia Remmel for Dunlap and Georgia Duncan for Washington. And, you know, when we saw Georgia Duncan in Pekin the other night, she had a great game. Washington's got a very deep roster. Claire McDougall had a very good game as well. But Remmel and Lily Sutter for Dunlap are going to pose a formidable challenge for this Panthers team. You'd figure Dunlap would actually probably be the favorite coming into this one. Ranked number 9 in the IHSA 3A poll, the most recent one anyways. New poll out tomorrow, so we'll see where they rank tomorrow. But, you know, it's going to be a good one. Washington's right there in the Mid-Illini, third going into this one. I'm ready to have a lot of fun tonight.
Joey, and I think we will, looking at both these two teams' paths coming into this game. Washington is coming off a series sweep against Pekin, winning on the road. You saw that one on ClutchSportsIL.com. And then they came here on Saturday and won that game as well. And according to Kim Barth, they played much better in that second game than they did on the road. As for Dunlap, they're coming off of a series sweep of East Peoria, a big-time sweep for them. And Joey, looking at these two teams' last matchup, you mentioned it a few moments ago. Kim Barth, before the game, she told me that this Washington Panthers team is much better than it was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, that was not Dunlap's last game, the Washington. It was a little ways back, but yeah, it's a very different Washington team than it was even when we saw them in Pekin the other night. The lights are out. We're ready for the lineups in a moment. But Washington, they've been beaten up a little bit this season, you know, whether with COVID or injuries, things of that nature. They're kind of returning to full strength. They're ready to go. They've got a lot of depth, even if they don't have a roster that's big in terms of numbers. So it's a different team. You're right, Larry, that, you know, lost to Dunlap a couple of weeks ago. It's going to be a physical battle. We're going to see a lot of scoring. Ready to see how it plays out.
I am too, Joey. Looks like we're going to take a brief moment to observe our national anthem, and then we'll be right back with starting lineups and game action on Clutch Sports. Welcome back inside the Torry Gym in Washington for a girls basketball Mid-Illini Conference matchup between Dunlap and Washington. Washington enters this one at 5-2, third place in the Mid-Illini, and Dunlap, ranked 9th in 3A, enters at 6-1 with its lone loss coming against Metamora. just a short while ago. Let's get you your starting lineups for today's matchup. First for the visiting Dunlap Eagles. It'll be number 5, Sophia Remmel, the 5'6" sophomore star who has really lit it up in a number of games so far this year. Bree Erickson follows number 10, a 5'8" sophomore guard. Lots of young talent on this Eagles squad. Lily Sutter, the 5'11" junior forward. We saw her have a big game a few weeks ago in Dunlap's victory over Metamora in triple overtime. Gabby DeGalinardo, the 5'11" senior forward, will start in the front court along with Tanaya Cummings, the 5'8" junior. As for Washington, as you see at a glance for both these teams, Washington's starting lineup focuses on obviously a lot of players, a lot of talent up and down this roster. Number 3, Leah Jones, the 5'9" junior guard. Allie Scrivener, we didn't see her in the lineup last time we saw the Panthers on Clutch Sports Media. She's back in the lineup today. Number 10, Claire McDougall, the 6' sophomore forward, scored 15 points in her last game. Number 13, Georgia Duncan, the 6' junior guard forward. And number 20, Lucia Wilson, the 5'3" junior guard.
At a glance, as you see on your screen, Dunlap 6-1, Washington 5-2. Dunlap beat Washington 52-44 earlier. That was not their last game, remember. That was a couple of weeks ago. Washington, you see there, their last game was against Pekin the other night. And they swept Pekin. That's a good Dragons team, a good sweep for Washington. Dunlap 9th in the 3A AP poll. Washington 3rd in the Mid-Illini Conference. And Larry, I want to take a look at our key matchup tonight. Keep an eye on Sophia Remmel for Dunlap and Georgia Duncan for Washington. It's a sophomore versus a junior, super sophomore. Sophia Remmel, I think that's a great way to describe her. Can score at will, I should say, scored 35 against Pekin a couple of weeks ago, and Georgia Duncan, 13 against Pekin the other night.
And we are underway from inside the Torry Gym. Dunlap wins the pseudo tip-off. And the ball is tipped off of Leah Jones, so it will stay with the Eagles. Lily Sutter inbounds. Remmel to the left wing to Cummings. Remmel has that range, passes it up that time. Lily Sutter with it now. The junior trots through the paint. Layup too strong.
Lily Sutter's a player I want to keep an eye on, too. We talk a lot about Remmel at the top of the show, but Lily Sutter brings a lot to this Dunlap Eagles team on offense and on defense. Keep an eye when the Panthers have the ball. She'll have her hand on a lot of plays.
That's right, Joey. That's one thing that we talked so much about in Dunlap's 3-overtime victory over Metamora. She was in the right place at the right time, seemingly on every defensive possession.
She really was, and I think she was the player of the game in that one. Don't believe she led Dunlap in scoring that afternoon, but
she was close.
She was close. She was right there, scored 18 points, and it was the defensive plays, the steals, the blocks, the rebounds, the little things that Lily Sutter did led Dunlap to victory that afternoon, and what a thriller it was. Could have gone either way, but keep an eye on her as well.
Bree Erickson back to Sutter. Dunlap taking its time. Erickson's going to pop the 3 and connect. Dunlap takes the early lead.
Yeah, and a lot of perimeter shooting. That's going to be a theme this evening for Dunlap especially. They've got DeGalinardo, they've got Erickson, they've got Remmel. They have a host of players who can burn you from deep.
Washington tries to burn them from the inside, and Scrivener's denied. And DeGalinardo's going to get called for the walk, so it comes right back.
Well, and it's what we talked about just a moment ago, Larry. It was Lily Sutter on the block. She's got good height, stands at 5'11", right there, that 6-foot range, and you can use that length to do a lot of things, blocks, rebounds, and steals especially.
Scrivener in the right corner. McDougall, she's going to drive, and she walked. 2 travels for each side, 2 combined travels, 1 on each side. And Dunlap gets the basketball back. No harm, no foul.
No.
Here's Remmel.
And I wouldn't be surprised to see Dunlap go back to the perimeter here. We'll see if they try and penetrate, try and, diversify their scoring a little bit early on. But
Remmel, the baseline, Jay, is slightly off. Still long range, but not outside the arc. McDougall's able to save it. Scrivener gets out of trouble. McDougall in transition, wide open to the right block, but a charge is called away from the ball. And that cost Washington 2 points, Joey.
Yeah, it did. I mean, wide open, the path to the basket. Off-ball fouls and off-ball mistakes will burn you. Washington sees that there. We're seeing it early on, Larry. It's going to be a tale of two games. Dunlap from the perimeter, but Washington in transition. If this team can get in a transition and get into the paint, Washington has a very good chance this evening. That's
one thing that head coach Heather Cassidy said for Dunlap. She said they need to slow them down in transition because if they can get out and run, they can do some damage. Erickson drives the lane, off balance. What a shot. And she's got all 5 points for the Eagles.
Guarantee you that'll make tomorrow's highlight reel. What a shot from Erickson.
McDougal looking to set up the Washington response, and it's a turnover. Cummings in transition. She turns it right back over. McDougal inside. Sutter with the rebound. She's going to try to take it coast to coast. Passes off to Cummings. And Dunlap is out to an early 7-0 run.
And don't forget about Tanaya Cummings. You know, she kind of came out of, I don't want to say came out of nowhere, but was not a focal point in the first 4 quarters of the Metamora game and made some big shots in the overtime. So Tanaya Cummings is going to be a big player for Dunlap if they try to kick it down low.
Worked into the corner for McDougal for the Panthers. Duncan thought about the deep three. Works off the screen. Into the paint, nearly gets tripped up, and it rattles home. Washington finally on the board.
And there's Georgia Duncan. You know, Dunlap kind of thought they had her neutralized at the top of the key, but you know, she can create. She's got great court vision, can hurt you from anywhere on the floor.
Here's Cummings, the long two, you bet.
There's Cummings. We talk about her as a post presence, but showing she's got the range.
McDougal in transition.
And as we talk about Claire McDougal, you know, about Georgia Duncan, you can't forget about McDougal because she is especially adept in the low post. If they can get it to her down there, they're in good shape.
Sutter's heave is off. Rebound to Washington. Cummings almost came away with the steal. McDougal ahead to Duncan. Nobody in front of her, and she is fouled by Sutter.
That'll take us to our mask timeout. We'll see if they get the free throws in first. Washington, little lucky there to have that possession, Larry. I think that they were a little too eager down low. McDougal and Jones playing catch. But Georgia Duncan gets to the line just the same. Big free throws coming up for Washington.
Washington will need them. They got themselves in an early hole due to a 7-0 run by Dunlap. We take this break to remind you that tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Jake Weston State Farm in Washington. For all your insurance needs, call 309-444-4441. Jake from State Farm. And Jaguar Land Rover Peoria. Tonight's coverage is brought to you by Jaguar Land Rover Peoria on Allen Road. Take advantage of courtesy car specials and drive home a Jaguar or Land Rover for less than you might think. JaguarLandRoverPeoria.com. And by Uftering Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram in North Pekin. From Wranglers and Grand Cherokees to Rams and family vans, you'll always get a better bottom dollar at Uftering Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. UfteringPekin.com. And by Uftering Chevy. Tonight's coverage is brought to you by Uftering Chevy in Washington. When you're shopping for a new Chevy in Central Illinois, visit the heart of Chevy country for selections, savings, and more for your trade. UfteringChevy.com. We thank all our great sponsors tonight in Washington for their consistent support of Clutch Sports Media. Out of the mask timeout, Duncan knocks in the first free throw.
Yeah, big free throws here from Washington. You don't want to oversell it early, but Dunlap came out of the game strong. I mean, they were firing out of the gates, the 7-0 lead. Washington has battled it back to within 4 and make that 3 on the second made free throw. It's a game of runs, Larry Larson, and Washington is on a little one of their own, shall we say.
How many times have we said that this year, Joey? So many momentum shifts, especially when teams' first lines start to run out of gas, and it looks like Dunlap maybe is. The steal by McDougal for 2.
Well, or I should say, if Dunlap's front 5 is running out of steam, Washington, they are just turning it on.
They're looking for Sutter inside. Ball right along the baseline. Wilson was able to get it out. McDougal out in front once again, and another 2. She's got 6 points. And no timeout by Dunlap as Heather Cassidy signals to her team, settle down, slow it down.
Heather Cassidy letting her team play through this period of adversity, and that's much like Phil Jackson would with the Bulls back in the 90s. Trust her team to figure it out. They certainly have the talent to do so, but a bad pass there and a turnover. Near turnover. Timeout Washington, I think.
Might have an injury timeout, Joey. It looked like maybe Wilson caught a glancing blow of sorts. Not entirely sure what happened there, but Washington basketball, and we're back underway.
Well, and good on the referees to catch that there, because they kind of signaled towards the Washington bench, asked Kim Barth, kind of what she wanted to do, and Wilson comes off.
Vaughn kicks to the left wing to Jones, and McGinnis just checked into the ball game. Madeline McGinnis, the 5'8" sophomore guard. Vaughn back up top, work to Duncan, into Jones in the corner. And Remmel tries to jump the pass, and she's able to get the steal. Nice move inside, doesn't go. Gets it right back, too hard off the glass. And the save is off the baseline by Fassett.
And it goes back to the earlier point, not to beat a dead horse, but that's Washington trying to run a half-court set. Dunlap got back on defense and forced them to run a play, and Washington certainly has the ability to do that, but that's not their strength. Kim Barth will call a timeout here.
Joey, I think she didn't like what she was seeing from that Dunlap full-court press. Washington getting close to that 5-second violation. So it looks like Barth will draw something up in the huddle.
And how big has the press been in this building this season? You go back to the Washington-Morton boys game a couple of weeks ago. That was one of our – that was probably – it was
last week.
It was last week.
Last Tuesday.
It was 2 games removed from the 3-overtime thriller in Dunlap. So that was a stretch where we were seeing a lot of good basketball, and it was Washington's defense. They were able to force the trap, before Morton could bring it across the timeline. That keyed them to a comeback win. You got to know how to beat the trap, especially at the high school level.
Some teams do it great. Other teams kind of flounder when it comes out. Duncan scans the floor as the Panthers try to break Dunlap's press. Jones gets across the timeline. Fortuitous bounce into the hands of Scrivener, and now she's in trouble. Falls backwards right into the official, and the ball will go the other way. So, Joey, the press works even though Washington was able to get across the timeline.
Yeah, that's not giving up on the defensive end. That's staying with the play and realizing that, when Washington is forced to play a little slower, you might have the upper hand.
Timeout by the officials. Unsure of what's going on here.
I am too, Larry. I don't know that I could.
Try to take one of our headset ears off to try and figure out what's going on. Perhaps a clock malfunction, Joey, but I suppose we can rewind after the game and find out.
Yeah, the folks at home have the ability to reset go back a couple seconds their own and see. It looks like they're calling out something to the scorers table, so I would venture to say that's a pretty good guess as to what's going on.
That's never a bad guess at a high school basketball game. A clock issue. Clara Berg to the right wing, Lauren Field to the right wing to Solenberger. Now it's back up top to Remmel. Remmel so dangerous off the dribble, into the paint, kicks into the corner, and Field is called for the travel on the step back. She needed to put the ball on the floor, and looks like Remmel may have rolled her ankle, Joey. She's gonna wave off the substitution. She says, no, I'm staying in the game. But looks like, sure enough, she will head to the bench to get checked out by the trainer. Remmel is a gamer, Joey, that one of many adjectives to describe her. Spectacular sophomore for Dunlap. Hopefully we see her back in the game soon.
And I would think we would. I think that's just, you always want to be better safe than sorry. The old phrase so often rings true. They'll check her over on the bench, and I would think that she'll be back out soon.
Scrivener is hammered in the paint from behind. That'll be on the floor. So no shots coming, but you got to figure that Scrivener was going to have a wide open layup. No defenders in front of her. So perhaps a good foul. Leah Jones triggers it in. McDougal to Scrivener, back to McDougal. She's dangerous in the post, passes out of the double team. Rebound goes to Dunlap. Cummings gives it right back.
And if you're Washington there, you like that shot from Scrivener. Allie Scrivener, not a player we saw in Pekin on Thursday night. If you were with us for that one, big win for the Panthers. That was during a stretch of time when the Panthers were a little shorthanded for a number of reasons, but Scrivener back in action tonight. And Larry, she's a player we saw a lot of last season. So, you know, we saw the Panthers quite a bit, and she's a player that is big for the Panthers. Might get lost when you talk about McDougal, Duncan, and company, but Scrivener, a great piece to have from the perimeter. So see if they don't go back to her here. They may or they may not.
Brings some senior leadership on the floor as well with a young roster. McDougal on the inside. Scrivener in the corner, back to McDougal, swatted away. The pass ahead. And a foul will send Julie Solenberger to the line.
Solenberger, a player that was so clutch for Dunlap against Metamora, and it's been a very clean game to this point. That's only Washington's second foul, and the first that will go against Wilson. And a good foul there, Larry. I like that foul, as Solenberger will miss on her
now
first.
Especially.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Make her earn them at the stripe, because that was an easy layup if there's no contact, if Wilson doesn't catch up and chase that one down.
Solenberger, the freshman guard, knocks down the second for her first point of the evening. Duncan working on the press. She gets it back. Tied up at 10. Washington currently on a 10-3 run after Dunlap started the game with a 7-0 stretch. Vaughn inside to an open Scrivener.
That's great motion from the Washington offense. Scrivener cutting in and finding a path to the basket. Better dish to make that happen. Nice play.
Dunlap has 10 seconds to work with. Erickson back to Solenberger. Three on the way from field is down. Clock still running, and Washington is going to run out of time. And that's how the first quarter ends. Dunlap edging the Panthers by 1 point. And Joey, like you said a few minutes ago, it's a game of runs.
It certainly is. We saw a fair share from both sides in that one, a 7-0 start for Dunlap, but the Panthers battle it back, and they're right there entering the second quarter.
We take this break to remind you that tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Jake Weston State Farm in Washington. Call Jake Weston at 309-444-4441 for all your insurance needs. It's Jake from State Farm. And by Jaguar Land Rover Peoria on Allen Road. Take advantage of courtesy car specials and drive home a Jaguar or Land Rover for less than you might think. JaguarLandRoverPeoria.com. And by Uftring Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram in North Pekin. From Wranglers and Grand Cherokees to Rams and family vans, you'll always get a better bottom dollar at Uftring Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. UfteringPekin.com. And last but not least, Uftring Chevy in Washington. When you're shopping for a new Chevy in Central Illinois, visit the heart of Chevy country for selections, savings, and more for your trade. UfteringChevy.com. We thank all our sponsors for their support of high school sports in Central Illinois and tonight's matchup between Washington and Dunlap. It's been a good one so far. Washington basketball out of the quarter break. Duncan pulls up, and the bank is not open. She gets it right back, works it to McDougal. Three on the way, rattles in for Carly Vaughn.
Carly Vaughn knocked in more than her fair share of those in Pekin a couple of nights ago.
That's a piece that can step up when you have a player like Scrivener out, Joey.
Absolutely.
Remmel back in the game. Her first attempt after exiting with an ankle injury is off. Here's McDougal. Duncan's put back, no. McDougal once again swims through the double team off the glass and in. She's got 8 points.
And Washington, to me, Larry, has seemed very aggressive out of the gates. Dunlap tries to do the same there, turns it over. The Panthers, you can tell, they're playing with a little more ferocity here in the start of the second quarter.
McDougal trying to make something happen quickly. Open Scrivener, just short. Back into the hands of Scrivener and out of the hands of the Panthers. So Lily Sutter will set up the offense. No look pass into the corner. Erickson's three is down. What a find by Sophia Remmel there.
Pretty dish. And you could tell the no look pass completely sold out. The defense left Erickson wide open in the corner.
Duncan the response.
Talk about Bree Erickson's scoring abilities, but that's what a complete player can do. That's what earns her the super sophomore moniker, the ability to the pass and the shot.
She knocks one down of her own, and Kim Barth takes a full timeout, and she's not happy. But Sophia Remmel, what ankle injury?
Yeah, no kidding. Back strong in the second quarter, and well, just what a sequence there. Kim Barth not happy in that Washington huddle. We can hear from up here. A little more mellow in the Dunlap huddle, I would say.
Good momentum for the Eagles after they started the game strong with a 7-0 run. Washington charged back with a 10-3 run of their own. Just been a back-and-forth ball game, Joey, and nothing better than that.
Certainly not. And talk about the head coaching matchup here real quick. Kim Barth for Washington, Heather Cassidy for Dunlap. Such a well-coached matchup. And these two head coaches, Kim Barth and Heather Cassidy, just two great people, right? I mean, just awesome to talk with them before games and, you know, talk basketball and beyond that. Two coaches that we really like seeing. You had a nice conversation with Kim Barth before this one, as did I with her in Pekin a couple of nights ago. It's fun to watch when you've got two great programs, two well-coached programs. You know you're going to see the fundamentals. You know you're going to see a lot of, you know, competing and intensity, and it just makes it a very pleasant game to watch.
And, Joey, I would say that these two teams were due to be at the top of the Mid-Illini Conference after Morton dominated for so long. You knew that Kim Barth's team and Heather Cassidy's team, they were coming, and they have arrived. Duncan off the lob pass. Contested layup is off, and here's Dunlap on the run. Remmel, another no-look pass. Step back mid-ranger is nothing but nothing, and Washington gets it back.
Well, and yeah, I like the idea from Sellenberger there. Of course, those won't always fall, and still got a 2-point lead. Washington still playing from behind.
Vaughn's three is short. Rebound by Sutter. One thing with Dunlap, Joey, they've moved the ball so well, they don't need to move it there, as Erickson got the easy look, and the putback is good by Chandler Fassett. Washington trying to go quick. They looked a little out of sorts on that possession. And Vaughn will head to the bench, and McGinnis comes in. Now it looks like the officials are going to reverse the call, and they're going to say it was out off of Washington. So Dunlap possession.
I'm going to be curious to see how Dunlap treats this possession. I would say that Washington has come out and controlled the pace a little better in this second quarter. The pace of the game has picked up. So we'll see, you know, Dunlap's got to create some motion here in the half-court set.
Timeout taken by Heather Cassidy. Joe, you mentioned the half-court set. Maybe she's trying to draw something up here. And we so often, broadcasters, talk about tempo, controlling the pace of the game. Who would you say has controlled the pace so far?
Well, I think Dunlap did a good job of that largely throughout the first quarter. But as I said a moment ago, I think it's Washington who has come out of the gates a little stronger in the second quarter here. And, you know, they've forced Dunlap to move a little quicker than maybe they want to. And Dunlap has still been efficient. You know, we're obviously tied at 19 here. Both teams have had some success. Pardon me, I got that last score wrong. 21-17 for Dunlap. Get that fixed in just a moment. But I still think Dunlap's moving a little quicker than they might want to, and a little quicker than they moved in the first quarter.
Sullenberger. Pass tipped into the hands of Erickson. Here's Fassett. One of the tallest players on the floor. Finds Sullenberger. She drives. Back to Fassett. Thought about the three. Nobody in the paint for Dunlap. Instead, it's popped back out. Sullenberger's three falls into the hands of Lucia Wilson. Guarded by Remmel. Open Scrivener passed up the tray. Bounce pass inside. McDougal. Rebound will go to Dunlap.
Yeah, and I like how Washington treated that with Scrivener trailing. You know, all the Panthers were quick to get back, but Scrivener just a little bit slower. That was intentional. You saw that set up the open three. Dunlap ultimately closed out. I guess it didn't make it quite so open of a look. Closed out, and Washington was forced to react. But I liked the general idea there of what Washington was trying to do.
And that brings us to our mask timeout here in the second quarter, and we take this break to remind you that tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Jake Weston, State Farm in Washington. Call 309-444-4441. Jake Weston from State Farm. And by Jaguar Land Rover Peoria on Allen Road. Take advantage of courtesy car specials and drive home a Jaguar or Land Rover for less than you might think. JaguarLandRoverPeoria.com. And by Uftring Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram in North Pekin. From Wranglers and Grand Cherokees to Rams and family vans, you'll always get a better bottom dollar at Uftring Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. UfteringPekin.com. And by Uftring Chevrolet, is in between Chevy and Chevrolet there, in Washington when you're shopping for a new Chevy in Central Illinois. Visit the heart of Chevy country for selection, savings, and more for your trade. UfteringChevy.com. And Sophia Remmel drives to the bucket and picks up 2 more points to get her total to 5.
Team total at 23, and now Dunlap on a little bit of a run. Just how they opened the first quarter with one. 7 points, Washington's largest deficit of the night. It's at 6 right now.
3 from McGinnis is down.
And Washington says, we don't want to get in that hole again. Responding early. Both teams have really traded baskets since that opening run for Dunlap. Washington went on a little bit of a stretch where I think they controlled it, but since then it's been pretty even.
To Gallinardo, over to Sutter. It's been back and forth so far. Erickson will walk it back out. Looking for Sutter, can't find her, so it's back out to Field. Erickson, the teardropper, no friendly bounce. Board goes to McDougal. Bit of a no-look pass to McGinnis. Panthers reverse it around the arc.
Zone look here for Dunlap. Washington trying to find the soft spot.
It's forced them to settle into more of a half-court offense, Joey, and we know the Panthers like to run it in transition. McGinnis to Scrivener from 15. Rebound Remmel. And Remmel tried to get a little too fancy with that pass. Looking for Erickson. You heard as soon as Remmel let go of the basketball, she said, Bree. Bree didn't look.
Right to Kim Barth.
Yes, she was ready.
It's a shame she's not playing, nor for Dunlap.
I'm sure she played some ball in her day. Wearing the bright orange tonight. Probably hard to confuse her with a teammate if you're Remmel. And Washington has a little miscommunication. But, Joey, I want to go back to that miscommunication on the pass by Remmel. I was watching Michigan-Ohio State on Sunday, like so many basketball fans were. And Ohio State, at a critical juncture in the game, I want to say Dwayne Washington was looking for E.J. Liddell on a behind-the-back pass, and Liddell just did not see the basketball. So that's not just a high school basketball thing. Remmel knocks it down through the contact, gets helped up by McDougal. Now Remmel starting to do some damage. Has 7 points all in this second quarter. McGinnis open for 3. Can't get that one to go.
And Larry, there are so many, we'll have a foul there on the floor. There are so many moving pieces during a basketball game. You've got 10 players running up and down the floor. It's a fast-paced game. There's a lot going on. Anything can change. Defense shows you one wrinkle, and that, a lot of moving pieces. You're going to have those miscommunications over the course of a game. You just hope that they happen with 2:30 left in the second quarter rather than 30 seconds left in the fourth quarter. You don't want those to happen late.
Lucia Wilson heads to the bench with 2 fouls. Better to work out those kinks in the second quarter.
Absolutely.
We've seen both these teams play some close games in the late stages. Sutter shakes her defender and knocks down the awkward jumper. Her first 2 points. Vaughn stares into the Dunlap zone defense. Jones gets it back. McDougal working baseline, and she stepped out, Joey. That Dunlap zone has been so good at suffocating any Panthers looks on the inside.
Jones, the extra pass there to McDougal. I almost wonder if she would have been better off taking that three, had a little bit of space. You always want to make the extra pass, find your teammate. But Dunlap's defense was right there on McDougal, couldn't do anything.
Erickson going to work on McDougal. Bounce pass down low to an open DeGallinardo. That's another great find.
That's a great, and yeah, that's why you want to make the extra pass. Completely caught the defense off guard.
McDougal will go to the stripe. The foul is going to be on Remmel. That's her first.
A rare foul tonight, though, Larry. It has been a very quick game.
It's gone by in a hurry. Dunlap out in front by 9. And the free throw gets the shooter's touch. McDougal up to 9 points. Can find double digits here. Washington needs to knock down these free throws. Try to build some momentum before the half. That one barely glances the rim. And Dunlap somehow gets it back. Remmel directs traffic.
Wouldn't think.
Sutter open in the corner. Don't want to leave her open. How about Erickson? The no-look reverse is off. Doesn't matter, but now field travels, as you were saying.
Well, and I was just saying I wouldn't think that Dunlap would hold that. 45 seconds was a little too much time, and as I started to say that, they set the offense in motion, looked for the three. And I wouldn't think Washington would hold it here, Larry. 35 and change left on. The way they like to run their offense, I think they'll push it.
McGinnis pushes across half court. Jump stop. Goes inside. And Addison Kimler is blocked. Joey, you were right, but it didn't work out. Now the Eagles will likely hold.
Yeah, and if I'm Dunlap here, I would hold for the final shot. You have a chance to go into the locker room ahead by double digits. They'll hold.
Remmel dances on the dribble. Hands off to Sutter, 2 lethal shooters. Sutter inside. DeGallinardo was open, passes it up. Erickson in the corner, needs to make something happen. The teardropper is airballed, and the first half ends with Dunlap out in front by 8. Joey, it was a back and forth first half. We saw Dunlap open the ball game with a 7-0 run that set the tone, but then here comes Washington surging back with a 10-3 run. I think that kind of set us up for the rest of the half, because we saw one team surge and then the other team comes back, and Dunlap, with good timing on their last run going into the locker room, up with a nice 8-point lead.
Yeah, it's Dunlap that caught the last stretch of momentum, and they go into the locker room up 8. But take you back to Metamora, it was Metamora that entered the locker room with a pretty good lead over the Eagles before the Eagles fought back and won it in triple OT. It's a game of runs. Washington will be just fine. They played a good first half. Pretty balanced scoring, and they looked to do a lot. They had a lot of players involved in the offense. But Dunlap, how about it with Sophia Remmel and Lily Sutter and company, DeGallinardo, Erickson with a big 8 points. They also had a lot involved in the offense, and ultimately just made a couple more shots, right? And, some of those shots were really acrobatic. Bree Erickson made a lot happen. Sophia Remmel made a lot happen with good passes. But Washington, again, they don't have anything to worry about entering the locker room. 8 points. I think they can find them in the third quarter. Just got to come out and play Panthers basketball.
Thanks for joining us on ClutchSportsIL.com for a rare Monday night Mid-Illini matchup between Dunlap and Washington. This game was rescheduled from February 11th. Washington dealt with a little bit of COVID issues, which led to the game being rescheduled. We take this time at the half to remind you that tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Jake Weston State Farm in Washington. Call 309-444-4441. The easiest phone number to remember in the entire 309 area code possibly. Call him for all your insurance needs. Jake from State Farm. And by Jaguar Land Rover Peoria on Allen Road. Take advantage of courtesy car specials and drive home a Jaguar or Land Rover for less than you might think. Jaguar Land Rover Peoria.com. And by Uftring in Pekin. Uftring Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. From Wranglers and Grand Cherokees to Rams and family vans, you'll always get a better bottom dollar at Uftring Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram. UfteringPekin.com. And by Uftring Chevrolet in Washington. When you're shopping for a new Chevy in Central Illinois, visit the heart of Chevy country for selections, savings, and more for your trade. UfteringChevy.com. At the half here in Washington, it's Dunlap 29, Washington 21. We will take a short break. Larry Larson and Joey Wright in with you, with John Michael and Josh Schwam in tow. Thanks for joining us on your Monday night. We'll be right back with some stats and a first half recap after this. Welcome back inside Torry Gym for a Monday night Mid-Illini girls basketball matchup, and it's been a special one so far. Dunlap out in front by 8 points over Washington. Dunlap took the first matchup between these two teams earlier in February, 52-44. The Panthers looking for revenge. They currently sit in third place in the Mid-Illini, while Dunlap, ranked 9th in the state in 3A, sits in first place. And Joey, boy, would it be a big victory for Kim Barth and the Panthers to come out victorious in this one.
It absolutely would be, you know, and this Washington team is right there. I mean, they're third in the Mid-Illini Conference. They are widely considered, I think, to be in that upper echelon along with Metamora and Dunlap and Pekin this year. Morton a little down. You know, it's a very stacked Mid-Illini Conference right there at the top. They're right there. This win would, I think, prove that to a lot of folks. Third quarter about set to get underway, and Washington has been led by not Georgia Duncan tonight, but
Claire McDougal.
Claire McDougal with 9 points. So keep an eye on her as the second half gets underway.
Balanced effort on both sides. Lily Sutter passes it out, and the three tickles the twine from Tanaya Cummings. Gets the scoring started in the second half. She's got 7 points. The response is off from Scrivener. Dunlap will push in transition. Sutter takes it all the way to the rack herself. Rebound tipped around. DeGallinardo fights for it. Kicks it out. Open Remmel. No look. Pass to Sutter. Erickson stepped out.
It was a good possession from Dunlap, and Lily Sutter almost got it to go underneath the basket before the three. I think maybe was just a little too excited, took the three maybe a bit too quick, but that's still a good possession. Ultimately, you know, you can't end them all with makes. It's Dunlap who has controlled the first 50 seconds or so of the third quarter.
Not what you want if you're the Panthers, down by 11 now. Duncan, nice pass inside, and McDougal gets the nice roll off the back of the rim. McDougal into double figures.
Yeah, now 11 points for McDougal, and this is a pivotal possession. These next couple of possessions are.
Sutter, wide open. Cummings, where was the defense there?
And I was just going to say, you know, let's see what Dunlap could create, and it's Cummings who, I don't want to say gets lost in the offense, but she can pop out of nowhere, burn you with a basket.
Scrivener knocks down the baseline J. She's got 4 points. Cummings, the hot hand, passes off to DeGallinardo. But Cummings quietly leading the team with 9 points, Joey. And you say she gets lost in the offense. I wouldn't even say she gets lost.
I wouldn't
like
either,
like you said, but she's not exactly a focal point for opposing defenses. But that's the beauty of it, because she's open a lot of the time. Short jumper by Duncan is off. Dunlap looking to continue their momentum. Remmel the drive, and she walked.
It's the beauty of having a team as deep as Heather Cassidy's Dunlap Eagles squad, though, is that Cummings can step up and have a big evening. Bree Erickson, you know, Sullenberger. It's not necessarily just Sutter and Remmel. I mean, the entire starting five for the Eagles can really hurt you.
You can say that for both sides in this one. McDougal, Scrivener's tray. McDougal rips away the board, gets to the bucket, can't get the roll. Erickson out in front for Dunlap. Cummings wanted the basketball, thought about the three. Remmel able to gather the rock. Rhythm three is off there. Remmel has been a little off tonight, Joey, and I say that with a grain of salt. She's got 7 points. Duncan picks up the transition two. She's got 6, but usually Remmel knocks down that shot, especially if she's open. McDougal with the big block. Cummings, the recovery, tipped around, and Duncan is able to come up with the heads-up play. What a sequence there.
Yeah, and that's what Washington brings to the table on defense. A lot of toughness, especially Claire McDougal. A force down low can come away with a blocked shot at will. Point I will make here in just a second. And, in fact,
that'll be our mask timeout.
This will be our mask timeout, so we'll get to that in just a second.
We take this break to remind you that tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Jake Weston State Farm in Washington. Call 309-444-4444 641 for all your insurance needs. Jake Weston, State Farm. And by Jaguar Land Rover Peoria on Allen Road. Take advantage of courtesy car specials and drive home a Jaguar Land Rover for less than you might think. JaguarLandRoverPeoria.com. And by Uftring Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in North Pekin. From Wranglers and Grand Cherokees to Rams and family vans, you'll always get a better bottom dollar at Uftring Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. UfteringPekin.com. And by Uftring Chevrolet in Washington. When you're shopping for a new Chevy in Central Illinois, visit the heart of Chevy country for selections, savings, and more for your trade. UfteringChevy.com. Joey, what's your point?
Well, and as I've been thinking here last couple of minutes, Larry, about a team as deep as Dunlap's, it's really a deep starting five. They have not gone to the bench hardly at all tonight. And I know you've been keeping score. You could kind of keep a look at our bench points for us, but
there's 6. 6 bench points, 3 from Vaughn and 3 from McGinnis.
Well, no, but for Dunlap especially, I don't know that they've had anyone step in off the bench. And again, you'd be the guy to go to there.
Sullenberger has 1 point off the bench. That's about it.
Yep.
McDougal, lob pass down low to an open Jones. She's in trouble. McDougal, underhand pass to Scrivener. Can't take advantage of the open look, and the officials are quick to their whistles on the jump ball there. It'll stay on this end. But Joey, like you said, you know, a lot of talent in the starting five for both squads. You could say the same for the benches, but you are right, not a lot of bench scoring. Duncan, back to Jones. And a foul away from the ball on Washington. Not entirely sure what the call was there, but 5 seconds in the lane was the call. So Dunlap gets it back.
Comes in an inopportune time here with, Washington trying to cut into this deficit. But the Panthers' defense has really stepped up last couple of trips down the floor, so curious to see if they can do that again right here. They will.
Washington comes out with the takeaway. Duncan, they heave ahead to Jones.
And there's Leah Jones stepping outside and getting it done.
Her first 2 points.
Outside, I say again, with a grain of salt, deep 2, but
we've seen that a lot from both these sides. They both like to shoot the mid-range. Lauren Field alongside the baseline, blocked by the bottom of the rim. Scrivener working on Sutter. Now she slows it down. McDougal open at the free throw line, works it out to Jones. The hesitation, her take is off. Fassett was fouled. And we'll get some subs. That foul is going to be on Duncan, her first.
Erickson and Sullenberger in for Dunlap, and didn't catch, I think that was Vaughn in for Washington. Nevertheless, it was Vaughn. So, yeah, Sullenberger and Erickson in for Dunlap. And those are 2 players, Larry, that Heather Cassidy has enjoyed seeing on the floor tonight.
Entry pass tipped away back into the hands of Remmel. Getting a screen from DeGallinardo. Scoop pass to Erickson. Field with some space. And she gets tied up. And this time the jump ball favors the Panthers. The Eagles.
Yeah, first tie-up I believe we've seen tonight.
Second in a few minutes.
That's right.
Come on, Joey.
Oh, man, I don't know.
Sleep at the wheel. Sullenberger sets up the offense. Field is open. Her 3 can't bank in. Tries to clean up her own mess, and a foul is called on the floor. Now the fouls are starting to pick up in the second half, Joey.
Yeah, it was a pretty clean first half, but now both teams starting to foul a little bit. And, with neither roster especially deep in terms of players, deep in talent, but in terms of numbers, maybe not so much. It's good that they're just now starting to ratchet up. No one's really in foul trouble on either side.
Now we get another foul away from the ball. It's going to be on Washington. That one's going to be on Wilson.
Right on
her
cue,
third.
that's her third, yeah.
She's not coming out of the game quite yet. Lots of time remaining in this ball game. In case you're just joining us, Dunlap led at the half by 8 after a hot start. Washington with a bit of a slow start to this second half. Dunlap not exactly able to capitalize. And Remmel's fouled. Third foul of the possession for Washington. And that one's gonna also go on Wilson, her fourth, and now she comes out of the game.
Well, yeah, now she'll come out, and I was going to say third, not an emergency 4 with 10 minutes left in the game. Yeah, she'll have to come out and sit for a little bit. And Washington will need her late in this one, so expect her to spend a good couple minutes on the bench.
Remmel, the deep three, she knew it was in. Timeout, Heather Cassidy, full timeout.
Yeah, and a good timeout for Heather Cassidy there to lock in the momentum. Big 3 there from Remmel, and that's what you get from Sophia Remmel. 35 points against Pekin real early in the season. That'll go down as one of the higher scoring marks from any girls basketball player this season. Sophia, I mean, she can just do so much. We saw the passing was really kind of the big thing that she was doing early in the game in the first, second quarter, but now she's starting to heat up and tickle the twine here in Q3.
Joey, that's what great players do when they're a little cold to start the game. You know, some shoot out of it, but we didn't see that from Remmel. She was passing the ball. She made a few great passes, especially in that first quarter. In the second quarter, she left for a few minutes after it looked like she rolled her ankle. But you see that key matchup graphic. Sophia Remmel versus Georgia Duncan. Well, so far advantage Remmel, 10 points against Duncan's 6. Washington basketball out of the timeout. We'll see if they can build up some momentum, down by 8. McGinnis looking inside. Duncan wanted to penetrate.
Eagles defense holding tough here. They're going to force Washington to take something from the perimeter, an outside look.
They've really done that all night, Joey. It's been very good as Vaughn drives inside. Her layup was off. Sutter passes ahead in transition. Sullenberger's mid-range. Rebound goes to Jones. Vaughn out in front through contact. It'll stay with Washington.
Great possession from Sutter. You know, the ball was loose, kind of coming up the floor. A little wild, but she was able to maintain the dribble, come away with it, and set up the possession for the Eagles.
Remmel goes to the bench. Duncan scans the floor, lobs it in for Vaughn. Open Jones doesn't want the 3. Washington taking its time. A minute to go now in the third quarter. Vaughn's 3. She got knocked down, but she can't knock down the shot. McGinnis shot off the rebound. Third try is in and 1.
Physical possession, and Washington finishes.
McGinnis has 5 with a chance to pick up her 6th point.
And that invites a question of how Dunlap wants to play this next possession should this free throw fall. Remmel will return to the game for Cummings for the Eagles here, but it's Washington who has started to peak at the right time here in the third quarter. Dunlap got out to the early run, but this free throw could make it a 5-point game.
Joey, we talked in the first half about how it was a game of runs. Washington hadn't really picked up a run here in this second half yet. Until now, you can feel the energy in the building favoring the Panthers. As McGinnis knocked down the and 1 free throw. DeGallinardo going to work on McDougal, and she cashes in. Now Washington has the opportunity to go quick or hold for the final shot.
I would hold it here if I'm Washington. You know, with no shot clock, there's no 2-for-1 opportunity. Take a good look if it comes to you, but hold for the final shot and try to get it to 4 or 5.
Nice cross-court pass. Open Duncan, almost. Rebound Jones, that's off. And Remmel got tied up, and the Panthers get it back, Joey. That's a big jump ball.
It really is, and that's it's a good look for Duncan. You can't fault Washington for setting that into motion a little early. She had the open three. It almost fell.
Joey, a little confusion there. Looked like Dunlap was about ready to inbound the basketball, but arrow does indeed favor the Panthers. 9 seconds on the clock. McGinnis has the open look. Falls well short. Sutter ahead to Erickson. She's got time. She's got the open three, and it doesn't fall.
2 threes within just a couple seconds of each other almost went down. Erickson was just a little off on that, and that's how she goes sometimes. That's how the third quarter ends. And I think we're in store for a good fourth quarter here. 7-point game, but I think the Panthers are right there.
Thanks for joining us tonight for a Mid-Illini Monday night matchup. It's been a good one so far, living up to the expectation of two teams at the top of the standings. We take this break to remind you that tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Jake Weston, State Farm in Washington. Call 309-444-4441 for all your insurance needs. It's Jake Weston from State Farm. And Jaguar Land Rover Peoria on Allen Road. Take advantage of courtesy car specials and drive home a Jaguar or Land Rover for less than you might think. JaguarLandRoverPeoria.com. And tonight's coverage is also brought to you by Uftring Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in North Pekin. From Wranglers and Grand Cherokees to Rams and family vans, you'll always get a better bottom dollar at Uftring Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, UfteringPekin.com. And last but not least, it's also brought to you by Uftring Chevrolet in Washington. When you're shopping for a new Chevy in Central Illinois, visit the heart of Chevy country for selections, savings, and more for your trade. UfteringChevy.com. Eagles basketball, the start of the final quarter of regulation, I should probably add.
Never know with Dunlap.
No, you don't. For those not familiar, Dunlap won a 3-overtime marathon against Metamora a few weeks back. And I think, Joey, that was the game that Dunlap really came out and made a statement with. Pass down low to Cummings, knocked away by McDougal, so it stays here. But I was talking to Heather Cassidy, Joey, and the game after that triple overtime victory, the Eagles were defeated rather handily.
That's right.
By the Redbirds, and Coach Cassidy told me that's really the only bad game they've played this season, and it shows on their record of 6-1. Remmel, another deep three. She thought she had it, but it doesn't matter because they get it back. Remmel's going to go inside, and she's blocked by McDougal. She's going to try and take it coast to coast, bounce pass to Jones. She can't finish, and now Sutter's in transition. Sutter is hacked.
Wild sequence of events, and that'll end with Dunlap at the free throw line. Take a quick moment to remind you that we will be in Metamora tomorrow. Pekin at Metamora, first time back there since the 3-overtime thriller. First free throw will fall short, just behind our graphic there. Probably should have made that graphic a little smaller, but
way to go, producer.
It is what it is, and that is going to be, now I've got to find it to hide it. There we go. That's going to be a fun one. Pekin and Metamora, two very good teams in the Mid-Illini. And that Metamora team, well coached by Brianna Morrow, brings me to my ultimate point is you kind of had that feeling they were going to come out motivated after losing such a close one. And ultimately they were able to win the rematch rather decisively. But when we talk about Metamora, Dunlap, Washington, and Pekin this year, four teams that can really beat up on each other. And Morton has snuck in some wins there too, swept Metamora. It's a crazy Mid-Illini in 2021.
Of course, can't forget Pekin, who defeated Morton, broke Morton's long winning streak. McDougal inside through contact. Foul, but no bucket. She almost got the and one. Foul's going to be on Cummings. DeGallinardo, her first. McDougal at the stripe with 11 points. First free throw is off. Joey, you got to make those in a close game.
Free throws are free, as they say, and that kind of undid Morton against Washington, the boys game that we referred to earlier, a really good one last week.
Just one of thousands of examples in the game of basketball.
Exactly.
McDougal knocks down the second, though. makes good on her first miss, and the Panthers force a travel. Erickson walked. Now things are starting to shift.
Yeah, and they'll be okay off that missed free throw, of course. You know, it's who's going to finish these last 6 minutes and 30 seconds the strongest. You know, 6 points, it may as well be tied because so much can happen.
Vaughn from deep. It's down. Panthers back to within 4.
It's another one of those deep twos that we've seen so often from Washington this year. Dunlap will take a timeout. Heather Cassidy not all that happy with what she's seeing, but Washington, you know, they're not burning them from 3. It's that deep mid-range. I think it's a dying art in this sport. You're wrong. Washington proving you tonight.
Both teams.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen it, you know, whether that's intentional or not, from that deep corner, perhaps a step or two in front of the arc. And Vaughn knocked that down. She's got 5 points for the Panthers. 5'7" sophomore guard has been a nice piece off the bench, Joey. But, I mean, looking at the scoring breakdown, first for Washington, McDougal with 12, Scrivener with 4, Jones with 2, Duncan with 6, and Vaughn with 5. And for Dunlap, it's the usual suspects, Remmel with 10, Erickson with 8, and Sutter is getting up there. I believe, no, she just got 2 points, so quiet night for Lily Sutter.
Yeah, but it's everything Sutter can do away from the ball, you know, away from the net.
Yeah.
Especially on defense.
Yes,
that makes
100%.
her such a player to watch.
She can fill it up, but we'll see if she breaks some more into that scoring column in this closing stanza. Sullenberger across the timeline. 10 guarding 10. And Erickson able to scramble to get the basketball back. And now Sutter works inside, and she's tripped up.
And just looking here, Washington still has, nope, that will be the 6th foul. So they're out of fouls to give after this. Oh.
Well, they get it right back.
How about that?
And that ball rolled rather slowly out of the baseline. Not sure how that happened. We're no physicists. We're just sports broadcasters. McGinnis lobs to Jones. Another cross-court pass to Vaughn. Entry pass to McDougal. She was open, and she capitalizes.
2-point game. Said it may as well be tied a moment ago, and Washington is right there.
And they almost get it back with a chance to tie. Duncan almost knocked over the horn they've got for substitutions on the sideline there.
Well, and to draw on another similarity from that great one we saw here last week against Morton, there was that play. Devin Vanderhyde of the Washington boys team dove into the bench for a loose ball. They're getting physical, man. That's what you're going to get in Washington. You're going to get that physical game. Panthers want it. Dunlap has it. Who will take it? Let's find out.
Panthers have played chaser for most of the second half. The ball stays with Dunlap. The steal attempt was from McGinnis. Great defense there. And now Remmel travels, and Washington will have that opportunity to tie.
Well, that's where defense wins games. You know, McGinnis did not get the steal, came close, great effort to get there, but that whole sequence kind of frazzled Dunlap. You know, the pressure applied by the defense made the Eagles react, and heading up the floor on offense, they just couldn't get their bearings.
McGinnis to the perimeter. Jones looking inside, and it's ripped away by Remmel. And she's called for the foul. Could have gone either way, Joey, but Remmel also aggressive on the defensive end. Doesn't pay off there. And now we get our mask timeout at a critical juncture of the game. So we take this moment to remind you that tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Jake Weston, State Farm in Washington. Call 309-444-4441 for all your insurance needs. It's Jake from State Farm, and by Jaguar Land Rover Peoria on Allen Road. Take advantage of courtesy car specials and drive home Jaguar or Land Rover for less than you might think. Jaguar, Land Rover, Peoria.com. And by Uftring Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in North Pekin. From Wranglers and Grand Cherokees to Rams and family vans, you'll always get a better bottom dollar at Uftring Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, UfteringPekin.com. And by Uftring Chevrolet in Washington. When you're shopping for a new Chevy in Central Illinois, visit the heart of Chevy country for selections, savings, and more for your trade. UfteringChevy.com. At the fourth quarter mask timeout, Dunlap ahead 39-37. Washington is yet to lead in this second half, Joey, but we talked about all those momentum shifts in the first half. It has not shifted as much, but undoubtedly the Panthers can feel they're close.
Yeah, and Washington could very well be in the lead here in about 10 seconds of game time, the way this one has gone. That last foul was a foul against Washington.
Yeah.
On the steal from Remmel.
So we're a bit confused there. Remmel knocks down the bonus free throw. He's got 11 points. This is not a player you want to send to the line.
It's certainly not. Now it might take Washington a little bit longer than 10 seconds to get into the lead.
And a foul and 2 made free throws as Remmel can't knock down the second. Broadcaster jinx there. Rebound to Washington, but you got to figure the mass timeout takes some wind out of their sails. The 3 for the tie was off. Rebound still loose, and now Sullenberger comes out with it. Open Lauren Field. Passed up the 3. She was rather deep, but no defenders in the vicinity.
You could tell she wanted it, though.
Probably heard some words from her sideline. Remmel going to work on Vaughn. Almost has it poked away. Gets it back in the paint. And a tie-up is called. Bodies all over the floor tonight, Joey. Lots of hustle.
I want to go back to that Lauren Field passing up the 3. It's my favorite thing. When, you think she was too open?
Maybe,
that's what she thought.
I think a lot of the time if you hesitate when you get the basketball, if you hesitate to shoot, you're probably going to miss. Field in some trouble, and now a foul called. I think that one's going to go on Vaughn, and it will. So now Dunlap goes back to the stripe, and if Field can knock these down, it really feels like Washington doesn't have their momentum anymore.
Yeah, 1 and 1, missed it.
Now it doesn't matter.
But it's still, if you're Washington, they still had a little bit more momentum, I feel like, a moment ago here. They've got to make a play to get it back.
Vaughn had the open look, gets the basketball back after the fumble. McDougal off the glass, no good. And now Remmel has it. Dunlap is going to start to take its time, Joey.
Yeah, and with no shot clock in the IHSA, at least yet, there's a lot of campaigning for it, and people want it.
Rebound loose, the tip loose, and another jump ball, and it will go Washington's way.
Yeah, just as I was, theoretically Dunlap could run out the clock, as could Washington. No one forced to take a shot in any given period of time. But that's that Washington defense, Larry. They've been so adept in this fourth quarter.
Both teams stuck on a number here at 37-40 in favor of the Eagles. First place in the Mid-Illini. They won the first matchup with Washington. The 3 for the tie is off once again by Vaughn. Eagles out with it. Sutter was a little too quick with it. Vaughn out in front to the left block. Layup just short. And we're still stuck on 37 for the Panthers, 40 for Dunlap as we approach the 3-minute mark. And now Fields just going to stand on it. And why not, Joey? At this point, Dunlap might as well take as much time as they would like.
Yeah, make the Panthers defense come to you and get them at the free throw line.
We've seen how well they can shoot around the perimeter. That's where they're working right now, well beyond the perimeter. Sullenberger is fouled by Vaughn. If our records are correct, it's going to be Vaughn's third. Now we get a sub for Dunlap. Fassett in for DeGallinardo. So Sullenberger to the line. She's got 1 point tonight. Now she's got 2. In case you're just joining us, Dunlap came out of the gate hot. Washington surged back. Then Dunlap surged ahead for the halftime lead, 29-21. They've held the lead for the entirety of this second half. Off the putback, Sutter for 2.
And there's Sutter, just
right place, right time once again. Duncan fouled on the response and 1. Duncan up to 8 points, and that's a big shot, Joey.
Oh, it's a huge shot because that's going to put Washington with a made free throw back down by only 1 possession, especially after the big play from Sutter. You know, you need momentum at this point.
Washington back within 3. Timeout, Kim Barth and the Panthers. It'll be a full timeout. Joey, what do you make of it?
Well, and I think it's a great timeout for Kim Barth here, just kind of right ahead of this last little stretch. They've got to be talking defense, Larry, and they've got to say we've got to keep this intensity up. We've got to press. We've got to double team. We've got to make it hard for Dunlap to hold the ball. And 2:24, maybe Dunlap tries to run a play here. I mean, it's even a little early, I think, to run out the clock and sit on it. But if you're Washington, you've got to make it tough. If you've got a player, standing way up top with the ball, just kind of, trying to stand there, dribble, hold it, you've got to make it tough. You've got to bring 2. You've got to bring pressure. Can't let Dunlap be comfortable this last 2:24.
One thing that's not going to help the Panthers, Joey, Dunlap is in the double bonus. So every common foul will result in 2 free throws for the Eagles, not just 1. And we've seen them fail to capitalize when they were in the single bonus, missing a lot of their first free throws. But now they will automatically get a second attempt.
Yeah, and it's, you don't want to foul if you're Washington yet. I think you're probably 30 to 45 seconds removed from that conversation. Try and force a turnover. That's the ideal outcome of this possession if you're Washington.
Dunlap trying to break the press. They've got to hurry. Sutter in trouble, and she gets it across the timeline. What a pass that was to get it to Remmel before she traveled. Sullenberger gets it to Sutter. Washington was looking for the charge away from the ball as Vaughn got knocked down. Dunlap taking its time. Sullenberger inside, the jumper from DeGallinardo. The shooter's touch for 2.
And that was a great look for Dunlap to end that possession.
Vaughn from deep. She dials it up, and she is pumped up. Washington within 2. Time running out, though.
Tell you what, it's just what we saw the last time we were in this building.
Jump ball, and the Panthers will get it back with a chance to take the lead. Excuse me, it'll stay with Dunlap. One official signaled one way, the other signaled the other way.
Last week we saw defense keying a late comeback, and if you're Dunlap here, you've just got to stay the course. Put it in the hands of a good shooter and make Washington come to them.
Timeout, Heather Cassidy. 30-second timeout. She could sense that Lauren Field was in trouble. And now Cassidy wants her squad to catch their breath and perhaps draw up a play. Joey, if you're Dunlap, after you take some time off the clock, do you look for a 2 or a 3? Because a 3 really gives you a boost. You could argue that could be even a dagger.
Yeah, I think it's best available shot, but I think the key there is after you take some time off the clock, I think you look for the foul. I think you get it in the hands of a Remmel, of DeGallinardo, Erickson, someone who can make them at the line or who you would trust to make them at the line and make Washington start fouling. I think if you have an open 3, yeah, maybe you take it. You go for the exclamation mark. I like that, but ultimately, if I'm taking some time off the clock, I'm trying to end it with some free throws.
Bree Erickson will inbound off the sideline. Dunlap runs the stack formation. Erickson in trouble and eventually gets it into DeGallinardo, and now another tie-up. This jump ball goes to Washington. How many of those have we seen tonight?
We've seen quite a few here, especially in this fourth quarter, late third quarter. And that's exactly what Washington needed to do out of the timeout. I like that. Force the jump ball. You see you've got the arrow and get it.
McDougal for the tie was off. Sutter the big board. And we get a timeout. That one taken by Dunlap.
Should be Dunlap's
It'll be a full
final timeout too there. So Dunlap is going to go the last 69 seconds here with no timeouts. Washington with 2.
Cassidy confident in her squad. She's drawing something up right now in the huddle. Joey, down the stretch, so many options for Dunlap. But who's the go-to player? Who's taking the shots?
I think you've got to go to Remmel, but I like that you've got Bree Erickson. I would trust Lily Sutter at the free throw line as well. Sullenberger's a great shooter as well, and DeGalinardo can. So really, I mean, anyone they trot out can take those shots. I think I get it to Remmel, though, your proven scorer. If she's not available, I think I'm going Erickson.
In case you're just joining us, Dunlap has led the entire second half. They've led since the midway point of the second quarter. First half, it was a back-and-forth battle. Dunlap has held the course. Washington keeping the game mostly within one possession here in the closing stages, though. Erickson trying to break the press, and she does. Sutter the cross-court pass to Remmel, and she's going to hold on to it under a minute. Remmel trying to shake her defender, gets it to Sullenberger, and the Eagles are just going to work it around the perimeter. Back to Remmel, and she is checked by Lucia Wilson, and that'll be her 5th. Lucia Wilson has fouled out with no points.
And the Panthers had little choice there but to foul. A little surprised that Wilson was the one who ultimately did the fouling.
Wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah, it's just sort of a by necessity situation.
Remmel goes to the stripe with 11 points. First one is in, lead back to 3. This next one will be big. 5'6" sophomore guard. Knocks it down. Dunlap by 2 possessions. Leah Jones across the logo. Vaughn's 3, short. Rebound Erickson. Now Washington's got a foul. And a block is called. Vaughn tried to take the charge at half court. Great hustle. They got to the spot at the same time, but it favors the offense. So with the Eagles in the double bonus, it'll be 2 free throws.
When I tell you, I think that one could have gone either way. I was looking at that through our computer screen, but that was a great effort from Vaughn and didn't get the call.
Erickson doesn't knock them both down. Made the first. Ball goes immediately to Vaughn. Her 3 is off. She's been the shooter of choice for Washington. And Sutter is fouled. So the experienced junior goes to the stripe. Probably a player you don't want shooting free throws here, Joey.
I would
if you're
think
Washington.
So, no. And Sutter has not lit up the scoreboard tonight, but finished with 18 against Metamora. So key down the stretch.
She's got 4 tonight. Her first free throw is off. She has had her fair share of struggles at the stripe. Substitution for the Eagles. Erickson comes out and Cummings comes in. Second one rattles off the rim. Door still open for the Panthers. They need to hurry. Vaughn once again goes inside to Duncan. Back out Vaughn. 3 on the way is off. Rebound into the hands of Remmel. She's going to run away with it across half court and wait to be fouled. And another jump ball. But the possession arrow keeps the rock with Dunlap. 7.7 seconds remaining. And at this point, it's going to take a miracle for the Panthers to come back.
It's got to start. Washington has got to make it very difficult to get the inbound pass in. They have got to wall up on the inbound and
Dunlap with no timeouts.
Force a turnover.
Sullenberger gets it into Remmel, and that will do it. Dunlap comes out on top with a road victory, 48-27. to 43 over Washington, and they sweep the season series. The Eagles remain atop the Mid-Illini Conference.
Wow, what a close for Dunlap. I mean, Washington was right there. They made it a great game late, but it was an Eagles team that controlled most of the second half, came out into the gate strong in the third quarter and made Washington play catch-up. In the end, they had just a little more in the tank.
They did, Joey, and Washington was right there throughout the entire fourth quarter, despite Dunlap leading the entire second half from about midway through the second quarter onward. They were in the driver's seat, but it felt like Washington was in control from the start of the fourth quarter really until about those final 2 minutes.
Yeah, and, Washington, they brought it. I mean, they had some chances there late to tie it up, to take the lead. Ultimately, Dunlap was just a little bit more efficient, and I think Washington did some great things down the stretch, some great calls on, the heads-up plays to force the jump balls and things like that, and good physical play. But that's just such a good Dunlap team, and if you fall behind and you've got to play catch-up, they can hit the free throws. They're not going to kill themselves with, unforced errors, and ultimately they just had a little more in the tank, and Washington right there. I mean, it's going to be a fun Mid-Illini Conference tournament is all I can think about right now, because you flip those, you flip some early points, I think we could be looking at a different final score. But credit to Dunlap. They played a great game. They'll get the win.
So many talented teams in this conference, but right now Dunlap reigns supreme. They move to 7-1 on the season, while Washington drops to 5-2. Joey, who's your clutch-up player of the game?
Oh, man, that's, I think I got to go with Remmel for Dunlap. Had a good game. But, Sullenberger was big off the bench, didn't light up the scoring column. Erickson had a nice evening as well. And how about, it's got to be worth mentioning, Tanaya Cummings as well. Led Dunlap in scoring at one point, was big down low, really opened up another dynamic for them. So it could be any number of those players. I'll go with Remmel or Cummings, my two picks for Dunlap.
Joey, as we talk about a talented Mid-Illini Conference on the girls' side, we remind you that tomorrow we will carry another Mid-Illini Conference girls matchup as Pekin travels to take on the Redbirds of Metamora. That one will get underway at 7 o'clock on ClutchSportsIL.com. And we remind you to join us then. Should be a good one. Metamora right there in the conference race with Dunlap, Joey. Of course, they split the season series, so Metamora keeps going. They'll keep pace going into the Mid-Illini tournament.
They will, and the big sweep against Morton this last week. It's going to be a fun tournament. The front four, Metamora, Pekin, and then Dunlap and Washington tonight, all have a chance to win it. You can't rule out Morton as well. Two big wins against a good Metamora team this weekend. So excited to see how it all pans out. We're getting right down to crunch time. A quick season, already nearing its conclusion. Going to be fun to watch tomorrow night to start with.
Joey, it's hard to believe that we're nearing the tail end of the season, but boy, have we enjoyed it. That wraps it up from Torry Gymnasium for our entire Clutch Sports Media crew. Joey Wright, my partner alongside me at the controls as well. Jonathan Michael on the tripod, and Josh Schwam on social media and the camera roaming the baselines all night. I am Larry Larson saying so long and good night from Washington. We will talk to you tomorrow from Metamora.